You know, have you ever stopped to think about what's actually going on inside your brain when you fall asleep? It turns out your brain doesn't just switch off for the night. Nope, it's actually powering up. So let's dive in and find out why getting some sleep might just be the most productive thing you do all day.
Okay, picture this. It is 4 o'clock in the morning. You are totally wiped, but you've got a massive exam just a few hours away. You've been studying for days, but you still feel like it's not sticking. The pressure is seriously on.
So you've got a classic choice to make. Do you brew another pot of coffee and just keep cramming, trying to brute force that information into your brain? Or do you do something that feels totally wrong and just go to sleep? Well, believe it or not, science is screaming at you that the smartest choice, by a long shot, is option D. Let's break down why.
So many of us think of sleep as lost time, right? It's this annoying biological chore we have to do before we can get back to the real work. But that view is completely backward. We've got to totally reframe what's happening when our head hits the pillow.
Okay, so here's the absolute key. Sleep is not passive at all. It's an incredibly active state where your brain is doing some of its most important work. Think of it less like powering down your computer and more like running a super high-powered, deep clean maintenance cycle overnight.
While you're out, your body is busy doing all this background work, regulating things like your circulation and immune system. But the really cool part, and what we're going to dig into today, is what's happening upstairs. Your brain is literally restructuring itself. And that process is absolutely critical for one of its most important jobs, making memories.
To really get why sleep is basically a memory superhero, we first need to talk about the brain's biggest weakness. See, its default setting is to forget things.
40%. Just let that number sink in for a second. It represents a huge challenge for anyone trying to learn, well, anything. Here's what it means.
So that number comes from a 19th century psychologist named Hermann Ebbinghaus. He discovered what's called the forgetting curve. And what he found was that we naturally forget about 40% of brand new information within the first 20 minutes of learning it. Just 20 minutes. So how in the world do we fight against that? Well, the brain has this incredible built-in tool called memory consolidation. This is basically the biological magic that takes all those new, fragile short-term memories and starts converting them into stable, long-lasting, long-term memories. It's how the brain decides what's important enough to keep around.
Okay, so where is the factory where all this memory-making magic happens? Let's zoom in on the part of the brain that acts as mission control for our memories. Everybody meet the hippocampus. This small but incredibly mighty part of your brain is the absolute star of our show today. It's the main player in taking all those fleeting experiences and facts and locking them down so you can recall them later.
And the crazy thing is, we figured out just how crucial this little thing is because of the tragic story of a patient known only as HM. Back in the 1950s, doctors removed his hippocampus to treat his severe epilepsy, and afterward, his old memories were fine, but he completely lost the ability to form any new long-term memories. This case showed the world, in a really dramatic way, how vital the hippocampus is.
But here's where it gets really interesting. HM could still learn new physical skills, things he could practice over and over, like the finger movements for a piano piece. That's called procedural memory. But what he couldn't form were new declarative memories. You know, the facts, the figures, the concepts you need for that big test. This taught us that there are different kinds of memory, and the brain handles them in very different ways.
So here's how a memory gets made. First, new info comes in, and it's filed away as a shaky, short-term memory. Then, that information travels to the hippocampus, which acts like a master editor, looking at all the new connections between your neurons and strengthening the ones that matter. And finally, that reinforced memory gets sent back out to the cortex to be filed away for long-term storage. But when does the hippocampus do all this heavy lifting? You already know the answer, don't you? It happens during sleep. This is the critical, non-negotiable bridge between studying something and actually remembering it. This is where all the pieces we've been talking about finally click into place. Now, not all sleep is the same. When it comes to making memories, two of the deepest stages are the absolute superstars: slow-wave sleep, or SWS for short, and the one you've probably heard of, rapid eye movement, or REM sleep. And each one has a very specific and very important job to do.
And here it is. This is the big aha moment. During that deep, slow-wave sleep, your brain is working overtime to file away declarative memory. That's the facts and figures for your test. Then, later in the night, during REM sleep, it switches gears and locks in your procedural memory, the muscle memory you need for that piano recital. It's an unbelievably smart system, tackling different kinds of learning during different parts of the night.
So, what does this all mean for you staring at your textbook at 4 a.m.? It means that going to sleep after you learn something isn't lazy, it's not quitting, it is, arguably, the single most effective study technique you have.
The bottom line is this: pulling an all-nighter isn't just about feeling groggy the next day. No, it's so much worse than that. You are actively sabotaging your own goals. You're making it less likely that you'll remember the very stuff you worked so hard to learn. You're basically hitting the delete key on your own hard work.
There's this quote from the source material that I just absolutely love because it totally reframes how we should think about sleep. It says you should wake up every morning with a new and improved brain. And that's not just a nice thought, it's literally what's happening. Sleep isn't lost time, it's a nightly software update for your brain. So the next time you're faced with that 4 a.m. choice, more coffee or more sleep, the answer should be crystal clear. The smartest, most strategic thing you can possibly do for your brain is to just sleep on it. The real question is, will you?